I pulled into the parking lot of Sterling Industries at exactly noon. The sun was bright that Tuesday afternoon, and I felt excited about surprising my wife, Diana. We had been married for 28 years, and I still loved doing little things to make her smile. Today, I decided to bring her favorite lunch from Mario's Italian restaurant downtown. The chicken parmesan she always ordered on special occasions was packed carefully in the bag beside me. I grabbed it and walked toward the main entrance, thinking about how her face would light up when she saw me. Diana had been working long hours lately as CEO, and I wanted to remind her that I was thinking of her. The glass doors reflected my smile as I approached. I was wearing casual clothes since I had taken the afternoon off from my accounting firm. My heart felt warm with love and anticipation. 28 years together, and moments like these still mattered to us. The security guard at the front desk looked up as I entered. He was a large man with a stern expression and a name tag that read, Marcus. I had never seen him before, which made sense since I rarely visited Diana at work. She preferred keeping her professional and personal lives separate, something I always respected. I walked up to his desk with a friendly smile, holding up the bag of food. Good afternoon, I said cheerfully. I'm here to see Diana Chambers. I brought her lunch. Marcus looked me up and down slowly, his expression unchanging. He leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. Do you have an appointment? He asked in a flat tone. I laughed lightly, thinking he was joking. No, I'm her husband. I just wanted to surprise her. The words felt natural coming out of my mouth. After all, why would I need an appointment to see my own wife? Marcus's expression didn't change at all. Instead, he picked up his phone and pressed a few buttons. I stood there, slightly confused but still smiling. Maybe this was standard procedure for everyone, I thought. Security had probably gotten stricter since my last visit months ago. I could hear him speaking quietly into the phone, but I couldn't make out the words. He hung up and looked at me again. Someone will be down shortly, he said coldly. I nodded, feeling a bit awkward now. The warmth I had felt earlier was starting to fade. Other employees walked past us, swiping their badges and entering the building without any trouble. I shifted the lunch bag from one hand to the other, waiting. 5 minutes passed, then 10. I checked my watch and wondered what was taking so long. Finally, I saw the elevator doors open, and a woman in a business suit stepped out. The woman approached with quick, purposeful steps. Her heels clicked against the marble floor. She had short blonde hair and wore glasses that made her look very professional. Hello, I'm Patricia from Human Resources, she said, extending her hand. I shook it, feeling more confused than ever. Hi, I'm Thomas Chambers. I'm just here to bring my wife some lunch. Patricia glanced at Marcus, then back at me. Her smile seemed forced. Mr. Chambers, I'm afraid Mrs. Chambers is in meetings all afternoon. She specifically requested no interruptions today. I frowned. Diana hadn't mentioned any important meetings this morning. We had breakfast together and she seemed relaxed. Can you just let her know I'm here? It'll only take a minute, I insisted. Patricia shook her head gently. I'm sorry, but those are her instructions. Perhaps you could leave the lunch with security, and we'll make sure she gets it. Something felt wrong. Very wrong. Diana would never refuse to see me, especially if I had made the effort to come all the way to her office. We had always been open with each other. I looked at Patricia more carefully, searching her face for answers. This doesn't make sense, I said slowly. Can I at least call her cell phone? Patricia's smile faded completely. Mr. Chambers, I really must insist that you respect Mrs. Chambers' wishes. If you continue to cause a disruption, I'll have to ask security to escort you out. My jaw dropped. Escort me out? I was her husband, not some stranger. Marcus stood up from his desk, his hand moving toward his radio. The threat was clear. I felt my face getting hot with embarrassment and anger. Other employees were starting to stare at us. I couldn't believe this was happening. 28 years of marriage, and I was being treated like an unwanted visitor. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. Getting angry wouldn't help anything. Okay, I said quietly. I'll leave the lunch here. But please tell Diana that I stopped by. Tell her Thomas was here. Patricia nodded, took the bag from my hands and turned away without another word. Marcus sat back down, watching me carefully until I walked out the door. My hands were shaking as I got back into my car. I sat there for a long moment, staring at the building where my wife worked. None of this made sense. I pulled out my phone and called Diana's cell. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. Hey honey, it's me. I just tried to bring you lunch at the office. Call me back when you get this. Love you. I hung up and started the car, but I couldn't bring myself to drive away yet. I sat in that parking lot for another 20 minutes watching the entrance. Part of me expected Diana to come running out, apologizing for the misunderstanding. But she never appeared. My phone stayed silent. Finally, I drove home, my mind racing with questions. When I walked into our house, it felt emptier than usual. Everything looked the same as it had this morning. The coffee cups we had used were still in the sink, and Diana's morning newspaper was folded on the kitchen table. I picked up the paper and sat down trying to distract myself. But I couldn't focus on the words. My thoughts kept returning to Patricia's cold expression and Marcus's threatening stance. Why would Diana specifically say she didn't want to be interrupted? And why wouldn't she answer my call? I checked my phone again. Nothing. The silence felt heavy and uncomfortable in a way it never had before. By 5 o'clock I was pacing the living room. Diana usually got home around 6, sometimes later if traffic was bad. I had tried calling her 2 more times with no response. Each time it went to voicemail, my worry grew stronger. I decided to make dinner, hoping that everything would make sense once she got home. Maybe there really had been an important meeting. Maybe her phone had died. I was preparing pasta when I heard her car in the driveway. Relief flooded through me mixed with lingering confusion. The front door opened and Diana walked in looking tired. She was wearing a navy blue dress I had always liked on her. Her dark hair was pulled back in a professional bun. "Hey," she said casually, setting her briefcase down. "Something smells good." I turned from the stove to face her. "Diana, I tried to bring you lunch today." Diana's expression didn't change at all. She walked past me toward the stairs. "Oh, did you? I was in meetings all day. Didn't see you." Her voice was flat and distant. I followed her to the bottom of the staircase. "They wouldn't let me see you. Security treated me like a stranger. I called you 3 times. Diana paused on the 3rd step and turned around. For a brief moment, something flickered in her eyes. Was it guilt? Anger? I couldn't tell. "Thomas, I run a major company. Security protocols are important. You can't just show up unannounced." Her words were sharp. I felt like I had been slapped. "I'm your husband," I said quietly. "I brought you lunch because I love you. Since when do I need an appointment?" Diana sighed heavily. "You're overreacting. It's just company policy. I'm going to change. Dinner will be ready soon." Without waiting for my answer, she turned and walked upstairs. I stood there, frozen in shock. This wasn't the woman I had married. Diana had always been warm and appreciative, even during stressful times. She had never dismissed my feelings like this. I went back to the kitchen and finished making dinner in silence. When Diana came back down wearing comfortable clothes, we ate without talking much. I tried to bring up what happened again, but she changed the subject to something about quarterly reports. After dinner, she went to her home office and closed the door. I cleaned up alone, my thoughts spinning. That night, we went to bed in silence. Diana turned away from me and within minutes, she was asleep. I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling. Something fundamental had shifted in our relationship, and I didn't understand what or why. The woman sleeping beside me felt like a stranger. The next morning, Diana left early without eating breakfast. She said she had a 7 o'clock meeting. I watched her drive away, then called my best friend, Marcus. Yes, ironically the same name as the security guard. My friend Marcus had known Diana and me since college. We met for coffee that afternoon. "She's pulling away from you," Marcus said after I explained everything. "Something's going on, Thomas. That's not normal behavior." I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup, needing its warmth. "What should I do?" Marcus leaned forward. "You need to find out what's really happening. Maybe check her phone, her emails." I know it sounds extreme, but this situation is already extreme. I shook my head. I can't invade her privacy like that. We've always trusted each other. Marcus gave me a long, serious look. "Has she been giving you reasons to trust her lately?" His question haunted me all the way home. When had things started changing? I tried to remember. Over the past few months, Diana had been working later and later. She had taken several business trips that seemed to come up suddenly. She was always on her phone, typing away at messages she never shared with me. During our 28 years together, we had always talked about our days. Now she barely told me anything. That evening, Diana came home at 8 o'clock. She said she had grabbed dinner with colleagues. I was watching television when she arrived. "How was your day?" I asked, trying to keep my voice normal. "Busy," she replied, heading straight upstairs. "I have more work to do." She didn't ask about my day. She didn't kiss me hello. It was like I wasn't even there. I turned off the television and sat in the dark living room, feeling completely alone. Over the next week things got worse. Diana barely spoke to me. She came home later each night. She slept on her side of the bed like there was an invisible wall between us. One evening I finally confronted her. "Diana, what's happening to us? You're treating me like I don't exist." She was sitting on the couch with her laptop. She didn't even look up. "I'm just stressed with work." "Stop being so needy." Needy? The word stung. I sat down next to her, forcing her to acknowledge me. "This isn't about being needy. This is about our marriage. We used to talk. We used to spend time together. Now I feel like I'm living with a stranger." Diana finally closed her laptop and looked at me. Her eyes were cold in a way I had never seen before. "Maybe you should find something to occupy your time instead of obsessing over me." I couldn't sleep that night. Diana's words played over and over in my mind. The next day I did something I had never imagined I would do. I called Sterling Industries and asked to speak with Patricia from Human Resources. When she came on the line I tried to sound casual. "Hi Patricia, this is Thomas Chambers. I wanted to apologize for the confusion last week. I was wondering if you could tell me about Diana's schedule. I'm planning something special for our anniversary and want to make sure I don't interrupt important meetings." There was a long pause on the other end. "Mr. Chambers, I'm not authorized to share Mrs. Chambers' schedule with anyone. You'll need to discuss that directly with her." Her voice was professional but cold. "Not even with her husband?" I asked. Another pause. "Those are company policies. I'm sorry I can't help you." After hanging up, I sat at my desk feeling desperate. What was happening at that company? Why was everyone treating me like an outsider? I decided to drive back to Sterling Industries. This time, I parked across the street where I could watch the entrance without being noticed. I felt ridiculous like a spy in some movie, but I needed answers. At 5:30, employees started streaming out of the building. I watched carefully, looking for Diana's familiar figure. At 6:15 I finally saw her. She walked out of the main entrance, but she wasn't alone. A tall man in an expensive suit was walking beside her. They were laughing about something. As I watched, the man put his hand on the small of Diana's back. She didn't move away. They walked to the parking lot together, still talking and smiling. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. They stopped next to Diana's car. The man leaned against it casually like they had all the time in the world. They talked for another 10 minutes. I was too far away to hear what they were saying, but their body language spoke volumes. They stood close together, comfortable in a way that suggested this wasn't their first private conversation. Finally, Diana got into her car, and the man walked to a black luxury sedan parked nearby. They left the parking lot separately. I followed Diana home, staying several cars behind. My mind was racing with awful possibilities. When we both arrived home, I waited a few minutes before going inside. I found Diana in the kitchen, pouring herself a glass of wine. "How was work?" I asked, watching her face carefully. "Long day," she said without looking at me. "Lots of meetings." She was lying. She had just left work with that man, laughing and relaxed. I decided to test her. "Did you have dinner plans with colleagues again?" Diana took a sip of wine. "No, I came straight home." "Why?" My stomach dropped. She was definitely lying. "Just wondering," I said quietly. I walked away before she could see the hurt in my eyes. That night, after Diana fell asleep, I carefully took her phone from the nightstand. My hands were shaking as I typed in her passcode, our wedding anniversary date. To my surprise, it didn't work. She had changed it. I tried her birthday, my birthday, and various other combinations. Nothing worked. I set the phone back down, my heart breaking. She had locked me out of her life completely. I went downstairs and sat in the dark, trying to decide what to do. By morning I had made a decision. I needed to know the truth even if it destroyed me. The next day I hired a private investigator. His name was Vincent, and he came highly recommended by a lawyer friend. Vincent was a quiet man in his 50s with kind eyes that had seen too much. "I need to know if my wife is having an affair," I told him, hating how the words sounded. Vincent nodded without judgment. "Tell me everything." I explained the past few weeks, the incident at her office. Her cold behavior, the lies, the man in the parking lot. Vincent took notes and asked detailed questions. "I'll start surveillance tomorrow," he said. "Usually takes about a week to get a clear picture. Can you afford to wait that long?" I nodded, even though every day felt like torture. "Do what you need to do." As I left Vincent's office, I felt both relief and dread. Soon I would know the truth. But was I ready for what that truth might be? While Vincent worked, I tried to act normal around Diana. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. Every time she lied about where she had been or who she was with, I had to bite my tongue. Every night she turned away from me in bed, I had to fight the urge to confront her. One evening her phone buzzed with a text while she was in the shower. Without thinking I grabbed it. The screen showed a preview message from someone named A. The text said, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same place." My blood ran cold. I tried to open the phone but of course it was still locked. When Diana came out of the bathroom I was sitting on the bed staring at nothing. "Everything okay?" she asked, barely glancing at me. "Fine," I lied just like she had been lying to me. "Absolutely fine." 5 days after hiring Vincent he called me. "We need to meet," he said. His voice was serious. We met at a quiet diner on the edge of town. Vincent laid a folder on the table between us. "I'm sorry, Thomas. Your suspicions were correct." My hands trembled as I opened the folder. Inside were photos, dozens of them. Diana entering an expensive hotel downtown. Diana with the same tall man from the parking lot. The two of them in a restaurant holding hands across the table. A photo of them kissing in the hotel lobby. My vision blurred. Vincent spoke gently. "His name is Aaron Mitchell. He's the vice president of operations at Sterling Industries. According to my sources, they've been involved for about 4 months." 4 months. While I had been loving her, trusting her, she had been betraying me for 4 months. "There's more," Vincent said quietly. He showed me bank statements he had obtained through legal means. "She's been spending company money on personal expenses with him. Fancy dinners, hotel rooms, gifts. If the board found out, it could be considered embezzlement." I looked at the numbers but they didn't really register. My wife wasn't just cheating on me, she was breaking the law to support her affair. "What do I do?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Vincent leaned forward. "That's up to you. But you have enough evidence here for divorce proceedings. You also have enough to report her to the company board if you choose. She's violated ethics policies at minimum, possibly committed fraud." I gathered the photos and statements, stuffing them back into the folder. "I need to think." Vincent put his hand on my shoulder. "Take your time. But protect yourself, Thomas. Change banks, see a lawyer, document everything." I didn't go home right away. Instead, I drove to the lake where Diana and I had gotten married 28 years ago. I sat on the same bench where we had posed for wedding photos, holding the folder that contained proof of her betrayal. How had we gotten here? What had I done wrong? Or was this just who she had become? Someone willing to throw away nearly 3 decades for a fling with a coworker? As the sun set over the water, I made my decision. I wouldn't confront Diana yet. I would be smart about this. I would follow Vincent's advice, protect myself legally and financially, and then I would take everything away from her just like she had taken everything from me. First, I called a lawyer and scheduled an appointment. Then I called my bank and opened a new account, transferring half of our joint savings. The lawyer, a sharp woman named Helen, listened to my story and examined Vincent's evidence. "This is solid," she said. "We can file for divorce based on adultery. Given the length of your marriage and her behavior, you'll likely get a favorable settlement." Then I asked the question that had been burning in my mind. "What about the embezzlement? Can I report that?" Helen leaned back in her chair. "You can. It would likely result in her losing her job and facing legal consequences. But you need to decide if that's what you want. Revenge is tempting, but it has its own costs." I thought about 28 years of marriage. I thought about the life we had built together. Then I thought about her cold eyes, her lies, and those photos of her with Aaron. "She took everything from me," I said firmly. "My trust, my happiness, my future. I want her to understand what that feels like." Helen nodded slowly. "Then we'll pursue both tracks. File for divorce and report the financial irregularities to Sterling Industries Board. But Thomas, be prepared. This is going to get ugly." I left her office feeling powerful for the first time in weeks. That evening, I went home and acted completely normal. Diana barely noticed me anyway. Over the next few days, I gathered more evidence. Printed emails I found on her laptop when she left it unlocked, receipts I discovered in her car, credit card statements showing expensive purchases. I documented everything meticulously. On Friday afternoon, Helen called. "Everything is ready. We're filing on Monday morning. The board will receive our report simultaneously. By Monday afternoon, Diana's world is going to come crashing down." I took a deep breath. Do it. That weekend was surreal. Diana was home more than usual, almost pleasant. Maybe she sensed something was ending. Maybe guilt was finally catching up to her. Monday morning arrived bright and clear. Diana left for work at her usual time, completely unaware of what was coming. At 9 o'clock, Helen filed the divorce papers. At 9:15, the Sterling Industries board received a detailed report of Diana's affair and financial misconduct, backed by irrefutable evidence. At 10:30, my phone rang. It was Diana and she was screaming. "What did you do? What did you do?" Her voice was hysterical. "I did what you forced me to do," I said calmly. "I protected myself and made sure the truth came out. You destroyed our marriage, Diana. You destroyed yourself." She was crying now, begging. "Thomas, please, we can fix this. I made a mistake. Please call them back." But I had already hung up. I stood in our living room, soon to be just my living room, and felt something unexpected. Not happiness, not satisfaction, but peace. The woman I had loved was gone, had been gone for months. What remained was a stranger who had betrayed everything we had built. By reclaiming my power and exposing the truth, I hadn't just protected myself. I had finally, truly let her go.